Build Up Canada. What got you? Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what got you fired up about that? And because there's some energy behind that.
What I want to do with Build Up Canada and what I've started to do is build a two-part platform that allows us to feature and allows people to find Canadian businesses that are
Yeah,
involved in building supply chain. Part of it was just being really angry with what's happening down in the States
yeah,
and looking for Canadian products and going to companies that I assumed were Canadian because they used to be, and finding out all of these places that have been bought up by American private equity firms. But for the people who want to keep as many of their dollars within Canada as possible, we want to give them more of an option. The problems of tariffs are essentially that there's a tax being put on our goods that makes them more expensive to export, right? People also don't want to pay tariffs for imports. But I think a part that really goes under the radar is where this company ownership is happening. Like, okay, you're buying stuff in Canada. Where are the profits from that going? Aren't we all feeling a big rush of patriotism right now?
that is a definite sure thing. Yeah, for sure. Hello, everybody. This is Better Building with Buck. Today I have Ben Station here. I had came across him on a Instagram post, and he was talking about a new channel that he started called uh, Building Up Canada. And so that's correct, right, Ben?
Build up Canada, yeah.
Oh, Build Up Canada. Sorry. So essentially, we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about high performance homes, and trying to understand a little bit about Ben and what's getting him excited about doing what he does. So Ben, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your journey to where you are now and where you're going?
Sure, sounds good. Well, thanks for having me on.
No worries.
I am actually a carpenter by trade. I'm your typical trades guy. The same story as so many other people that had a really hard time paying attention in school. Despite having good marks and testing well, I just didn't really like school, and I ended up dropping out of high school and fell into a career in carpentry, which I then turned into a pretty successful business. But ultimately that's where I come from. People ask me who I am and what I do, and I always lead with I'm a carpenter by trade because I think that carpentry and the trades in general are very, very undervalued in our society at large. But I came from there and I spent a good amount of time just being a site carpenter, managing a small business, doing anything from framing contracts to concrete contracts, and then got really into millwork and finishing. From there, at one point, I continued to get more and more frustrated with the way that we were building things in Alberta and the lack of care towards any type of energy efficiency, which then led me really deeply down the building science rabbit hole, as I'm sure a lot of people out there can relate to. So when my partner and I moved to Kelowna to be closer to family, I decided to go back to school for a couple of years and went really, really far down the building science rabbit hole. And now where I'm at is entirely in construction consulting. I do passive house design. My company is Stationcraft, and we do what I call building optimization. So essentially, what I do is take my knowledge and my experience from all my years within the trades and dealing with engineers and consultants and building details. And I've applied all of the education that I now have in mechanical design and building science and building envelopes to come up with a pathway through step code that allows us to build the highest efficiency the best for the best price or in whatever way it meets the goals of the clients. So essentially that's what we do. Clients come to us at the beginning stage of their plans, and we take it from there and guide them through the process to give them the highest performance house they can get for their dollar.
Right on. Sweet. That's awesome. So are you like an energy advisor at that point or
Yeah, I did get my energy advisor registration. I have another energy advisor working for me. We are an EGBC engineering firm. I
oh,
have that set up in the last couple of years, and I have a very, very experienced mechanical engineer that's working with me as my director of building science. We met when we were in U of T at doing the building sciences program there, which is the
oh,
lead in building science specialist. So yeah, we're actually an engineering firm, but primarily stay on the construction consulting side.
Right on.
And
Cool.
being in BC, I mean, having the ability to offer the step code compliance services is really important, right?
Yeah, that's fair enough. And so at this point, are you doing any actual like in the field construction?
I mean, if you could see properly behind me, if my background wasn't blurred, you'd see a lot of Sega tape and blank walls and things like that. I'm trying to not be doing site carpentry other than for myself.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a deep energy retrofit on my own house.
Oh, nice. That's must be somewhat exciting depending on the day how things are going.
It is. My old house is Sega Blue. I'm using the MyVest 500 as a wrap on there, and then I've
Nice.
got 8 inches of exterior mineral wool going on right now, and then yeah, we've got lots of fun stuff. If you're a carpenter and interested in building science, I'm doing the ideal project right now, going for it's called an EnerPhit certification, which is the passive house level certification for retrofits.
Okay, cool. Right on. And what was the like the details that you were working through that were scratching your head the most that you were going into it when you're doing the retrofit?
Oh boy. It's it's so much. I mean, we went through the whole process of removal of the gas line and electrification, which in our climate here is economically beneficial if your house is quite efficient.
Right.
Uh, but so some of the mechanical design was a little more complicated because I'm going for certification on it, but I wasn't using Passive House certified windows. I had to actually get the CAD files of the extrusions from the window manufacturer, and then we do thermal bridge modeling in the company as well. So I
Okay.
figured them out and modeled the conductive flow through the assemblies and did everything that in order to certify a window product for Passive House certification. I did all that for my
Wow.
own, but yeah, it would have been easier just to buy the Passive House certified ones, but I learned that. I saved some money, made some mistakes, and then I went and I bought some beautiful Inotech doors for my patio door and front and back door, and those were Passive House certified. So they've
Very
been
nice.
really, really wonderful, but they come with a big price tag, So
Yeah, fair enough. That may or may not needed to be in the budget, but had to get there for this certification.
yeah, and when you're in the trades and you're trying to do a renovation for yourself, I think that we become our own biggest enemies right away because the sky's the limit for what you can do, right? You can do anything, and it's not like you're paying somebody to do it. So I don't know if you've ever done your own renovation, but
Yeah, I have for sure.
yeah, so it's really difficult because you just end up wanting to do everything and do it perfectly, and then you can change your mind about one thing, and like it ends up being a much less organized job than anything I've ever done in the contract, right?
Yeah,
So
no, that makes a lot of sense because it's like you learn one new thing, you do a podcast, you go on YouTube, next thing you know, you're like, oh well, I can't do it like that anymore.
yeah.
I got to do this thing. That's the best.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When I because we were on crawl space here and we spent 2 weeks cleaning rat crap and garbage out of the crawl space when we first bought it.
Yeah,
Uh, But then I just wanted to level out the floor, insulate it, radon protection, and put a plywood floor in there, right?
right,
I got all of that done. I got the insulation down, the vapor barrier, and then as I got along, I realized, oh, I've only got R12 down there, and it was right as I got my passive house certification and decided I wanted to go for that. So I
right,
pulled all that up, and I went to 6 inches of subfloor insulation and everything. Like it just 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, right? And
right. Fair
yeah,
enough.
awesome house out of it.
Fair enough. And so as far as Build Up Canada, what got you? Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what got you fired up about that? And because there's some energy behind that,
Yeah, absolutely. There is. Primarily, what got me fired up about this was starting to look to eliminate American supply from my portion of the supply chain wherever I could. When we're consulting on a contract, we're doing mechanical design sometimes a year and a half before the project is tendered for construction, right? We can't be dealing with massive uncertainty in that. And just to protect the projects, even from a budgetary standpoint, when they're going for financing, if we can show that we've done things to insulate our supply chains from cost changes, that helps with the risk factor determination for the developer that's going for that. So part of it was just being really angry with what's happening down in the States
Yeah.
and looking for Canadian products and going to companies that I assumed were Canadian because they used to be, and finding out all of these places that have been bought up by American private equity firms.
And
Every
Ben,
single
can I just pause you for 1 sec? Do we maybe just want to back up and just say a little bit about what you're trying to do as far as like the core idea,
Sure.
as far as like because the essentially that kind of your spreadsheet that you're building out
Yeah,
and like and okay, just because maybe people haven't seen this or
yeah,
and okay,
yeah, absolutely. So what I'm doing, what I want to do with Build Up Canada and what I've started to do is build a two-part platform that allows us to feature and allows people to find Canadian businesses that are
yeah,
involved in building supply chain. Um, so the way that it will function, and we're still just registering companies and building the background at this point, but it will function as a searchable map with categories on the side. So if you're building something in Canada and you need products to go into that house, whether it's a renovation or a new build or anything like that, we want to have a source that you can go to and go, okay, I need to do something for my foundation. I need ICF block. And then you find out, oh, that Nadura was bought out by Tremco, which is an American owned company, right?
right,
So what am I looking at? Not that that makes anything wrong with Nadura. They make excellent ICF block. But for the people who want to keep as many of their dollars within Canada as possible, we want to give them more of an option. So the searchable map so that you can find suppliers local to your job site or to your project, as well as with categories on the side. So you can select anything within the building industry and search for products that are sourced from Canada by Canadian owned companies, which is one of the biggest things. Because for me, I kept on looking at these I kept on looking at these products and these product supply lines that used to be Canadian owned that had been bought up by American private equity firms. And it's happened to me over and over again where I think something is Canadian and then you go and you look into it and you find out 4 years ago it was snatched up by some company and then sold off and into a private equity held conglomeration.
right,
Where if we're thinking about, the problems of tariffs are essentially that there's a tax being put on our goods that makes them more expensive to export, right?
yeah,
We're going to be able to seek less of that market with that. People also don't want to pay tariffs for imports. But I think a part that really goes under the radar is where this company ownership is happening. Like, okay, you're buying stuff in Canada. Where are the profits from that going? Because a
right.
lot of that is being siphoned off and put south of the border. So for me, I just really wanted a resource that would be really handy and easy to access for clients who are doing custom home builds to take to their home builder and say, look, I would like to use this product in this part of our project, as well as anybody who's doing renovations, so that we've done the background work and tried to find these companies for you. So that's the website side of it, where we're trying to get Canadian manufacturers and suppliers signed up right now to be listed, and we'll be launching towards the end of March here. And then the other side of it is the YouTube channel, which is Build Up Canada. I should say as well, the website is buildingcollective.ca, and
Oh,
that
okay,
that's where anybody can go and sign up if they own a Canadian supplier or manufacturer. They can sign up to be on there and just fill out the little form. And then the other side is the YouTube channel, which is Build Up Canada. And what I'm going to be doing with that is traveling around and meeting with different manufacturers around the country to see what they do, where they're located, the cool products that they make, and then making these short videos with them, right? So that it can drive more traffic to the website. The website will have embeds for any of the places that I've visited or anybody around the country has visited and helped make a video on, so that people can see what's being built here, because we make some of the best products in the entire world in Canada here, some of the highest efficiency, highest quality engineered products in the world. And also, it's just about keeping more of our dollars on shore. If you got product A and product B, and you don't know that A is made in Canada and B is made somewhere else, if they're the same price and they have the same performance metrics, I want people to be able to very easily choose product A and keep those dollars in our country.
Yeah, I guess what I was thinking about too is like, especially if it ends up being that it's a map, like an actual like physical map, that you're also able to uh, cut down on these transportation costs. And like if we end up moving towards some like carbon loaded housing maybe model down the road, that would also be helpful, even for people that just want to cut down on that amount of transport that, you ordered in this product and it came all the way from, say, Texas or something. Well, it didn't just show up there. It had to
Oh,
travel a long way.
100%. And we will see some of that coming in. I mean, I'm sure, like, you're located in BC, right?
Yeah,
On the
yeah, I'm in Nanaimo in Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we have, the zero carbon step code coming up. Now that's just about operational carbon. It's not about embodied carbon, but I think that we will see some of that coming down the line. Um, Probably not in the next 5 years or something like that, but it will happen eventually. And you're right, a lot of people just want to buy more local products and support, their surrounding communities. And so having a way of, like, even just through the beginning stages of this project, I have found some really, really incredible companies around this country that I just didn't know about, because
right.
they some website that was made on GeoCities in 1999 or whatever, right? And
Well,
they
and
just,
we don't have the same budget either. Like you're talking about, a
no.
Canadian company that is servicing, uh, tens of thousands of people compared to hundreds of thousands of companies or a million. It's like the budget that you have to put towards your marketing is not, it's just not there.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, bless these companies, a lot of them don't really want to grow much larger, and I completely get that. But at the same time, just to have that kind of exposure and put them on the map, both literally and figuratively, is going to be a really great option. Like this registry, it's like I said, I'm a carpenter. I'm not very good. I've gotten better at spreadsheets, but I've brought on a web development firm to do this, and it's going to be done properly. Like I've got
Right.
a big professional company handling it. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. There's a lot of energy behind it, and I just for me, like I said, meeting and learning about some of these companies has been really incredible. So my biggest goal with this is just to reduce the dollars going south of the border.
Right.
And the more that I look at it, the more that I realize that it could have many millions of dollars of impact and then in an ongoing way, because as soon as a builder or a developer gets their relationship entrenched with a supplier, they don't want to change it. So then if somebody helps them change that or even forces them to change via like a custom home client, and then they've done it once and worked with that supplier, they're so much more likely to continue working with that supplier and manufacturer because that uncertainty is taken out of the equation, right? And inertia is very, very powerful in the building and development industry. So in an ongoing way, it could just continue to benefit our country and those businesses.
Yeah. If we're in construction, we're so risk averse because of, if it works, just keep doing that because it's just one other piece of the puzzle that we don't have to continually reinvent because we're essentially trying to avoid this prototype every single project. And the less that we can make it a prototype and more of a streamlined process, the more likely that we're going to have success.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one that just jumped to mind as you said that, I think about we switched to in my finishing contracts, we switched to GRK screws for a while, right?
Yep.
Uh, because I really like them. But then when I'm hanging doors, I need a Robbie head on one of my drills, and then I need a GRK head on another drill. I don't want to be switching bits all the time, right?
Yeah.
So just that one little change completely affected how I did things, and then annoyed me, and I ended up going back to the Robertson head screws, right? But
Right.
it's just those little things that you don't think about, like the uncertainty, and then the little bit of a change, and then it creates a bit of bumpiness that then bothers you, and so we have to make sure that we can be helping these businesses navigate this, but ultimately it's just about giving people those options because Canadians want to choose Canadian business. Unless it's like massively more expensive, like everybody's going to come, it's going to come down to price for a lot of people as well. But quality of equipment is really important and just knowledge.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's it it's going to be when I saw it, I thought I got to reach out to you because you could
Mhm.
see how fired up you were and how excited you were, and like not in a negative way either. Like it was just like spirited, right?
Yeah,
And so I really was excited that you were able to do this with me, and we were able to kind of like have this conversation and try and understand
yeah,
what's
for
going on
sure.
out there.
And I appreciate you reaching out. Like I am pretty fired up about it, and I try and keep it like it's very easy to get sucked into the negative side of things. So I have to channel that energy back towards doing something positive because if I just let myself be angry, then 3 o'clock in the morning comes, I wake up and I'm dwelling on that, right?
Yeah.
I've been doing something positive with my time, and that's the other thing is this is entirely nonprofit. Like there are going to be there's going to be a small fee for being listed on the website, like 10, 15, $20. The web developer is going to set that to keep it from being able to be overrun by bots and things like that, right? But also just to support the hosting of it.
Yeah.
Uh, but like all of that money, if it exceeds what it's costing to run the website, all I'm going to use that for is making videos with suppliers. That's it. Like I really enjoy meeting people, talking about these things. And if it helps me sleep at night, then great. You
Yeah,
know,
well, it's going to fill your cup going on these adventures, and like it's also going to fill other people's cup, seeing that they're able to make a difference in their community, like the ability to be able to go to uh and, and open up these doors essentially. When we go back to this like ability to be marketable, you essentially are going out to try and find these people that aren't putting those, maybe not their effort, but it's just their market share. You're giving them a little bit more market share by having them be exposed. And you never know where the channel goes as far as exposing more um, companies and being able to get them out there and get more eyes on them.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really I'm just blown away as I'm going through this project about the companies that I'm finding that I just never would have heard about otherwise, right? So I want more people to have that experience and I want it to benefit our country because aren't we all feeling a big rush of patriotism right now?
That is a definite sure thing. Yeah, for sure. And have any of the products that you found so far, have you found a home for them on any of your upcoming projects?
Actually, yeah, there's one heat pump manufacturer systems in coming out of New Brunswick. They're called Nordic Heating and Cooling,
Yeah.
and they do air to water heat pumps. And we're looking at we haven't procured it yet. I'm still dealing with that, but I'm going to see an installed system tomorrow that's
Oh,
done
nice.
here in the Okanagan, and they've got a solution for a problem that I've been dealing with for months. That leads into rebate compatibility with one of the Fortis programs, and they've got a perfect solution for it. And I only found them because of the fact that I'm working on this Build Up Canada thing.
Good.
So now what we're looking at is speccing it as equipment on a commercial build that's coming up, and we just want to make sure that we can get our contractors on board and have them comfortable with the equipment and in the installation process. But yeah, I mean that could end up being an extra couple $100,000 of sales for this one company if this project moves forward in this way, and simply because I was looking for something Canadian and found that they make what I think is among the highest quality stuff in the world, right? And I
Right.
don't doesn't have to come from all over the place. It's going to help a company in New Brunswick, and yeah, it just all around feels really good.
Yeah, I bet it does. And as far as like thinking about when the the high performance housing and stuff like that, like what was when you think about that as like a driving motivator towards getting people, the client excited about that, um how do you think that you like to approach that so that because people don't understand it unless you kind of have a little bit of explanation and try and walk them down the road of the benefits of that. Because in a lot of cases, there doesn't always have to be a cost, but there usually is a little bit of cost to making it better at the upfront cost. Probably the like life cycle cost, you're probably going to save it, but the upfront cost is trying to get, people over that first little speed bump, and as soon as you get over the hill, you're kind of going back down and understanding. But
Yeah, well, and especially with the sticker shock that comes with building anything these days, right? Like people really have a hard time with with building at the moment, especially in custom homes. And I get that. Like I'm not looking to push people into anything more expensive. Luckily in BC here, we work through a rebate program through Fortis where there are incentives for reaching higher levels of the step code. But in general, when I'm approaching conversations about high performance and like energy efficiency, I like to talk to people about what they want from their house and try and tailor it to their values. And a lot of people, it's not for them, and I'm not going to push it on them, right?
right,
But people want to save energy. And if we can figure out ways of doing that that are cost neutral or very small cost increases, then that's a really excellent way to get people into a better, healthier home, right? Like one of the examples I use very, very often, I do this with builders quite a bit, when they're building places and they're insulating them with mineral wool, like with rock wool or whoever the supplier is going to be. I show them my insulation costing spreadsheet and I show them the cost per square foot of R22 rock wool compared to R24 rock wool. Well, through our local supplier here that supplies a lot of this stuff, we're sitting at 207 a square foot for R22 and 380 a square foot for R24 for
right,
just that little bump between the studs, right? Now, what that actually works out to is $55 per 4x8 sheet of actual cost increase just for that little bit. So I take people and I take their energy reports that they've got from other companies or whatever it may be, and I try and find pathways to higher performance that are cost neutral or even cost negative. I've got one on my screen right now that the energy advisor had spec'd R24 bad insulation for his house. He's an owner builder. He's doing everything himself. And I showed him the cost changes. And I said, no, don't do R24, go R22. And then for $30 a sheet, buy your exterior insulation and put 2 inches of exterior continuous insulation on that house. You're saving $20 per 4x8 sheet of vertical building envelope area, and your performance on it is dramatically better, right?
right,
So I like talking about people about things in terms of dollars and cents, but then also in terms of just comfort and luxury. Like for some clients, the right conversation to have is about the luxury aspect of it. They're spending money on their high-end finishes. They're spending money on their countertops, their backsplashes, their tile finishes, their engineered hardwood. And then I just want to have them like either into my showroom or into another window and door place and show them what it feels like to touch hardware that is higher quality, right?
right,
Because when you get your window package and it's $100,000 for your windows and exterior doors, and then somebody else sends you one and it seems like it's the same for $60,000, well, I can explain to them the differences in the U values and I can explain the differences in the energy costs. But a more effective thing for me is having them touch that piece of hardware that you go, oh, this is firm. This feels like high quality, right?
right,
And then for that type of client who is concerned about the keeping up with the Joneses of it all, putting them in a lift and slide patio door with high quality hardware is a whole different thing than just some patio door that slides in a track that's always dirty and gross and then the door always leaks, right?
yeah.
So sometimes that's the better way of going about that conversation, but it's very much client dependent, I think. I mean, what have you found with your clients?
Um, yeah, it's usually like for me, lots of the building envelope stuff is a non-negotiable
Hmm.
because like essentially it's going to be my warranty on the house. So whatever you want to do after we get past the, after the rain and after we get out of the envelope, then, I don't really care what you want to do. But
Hmm.
the envelope that's my warranty. So if you're into it, you're into it. If you're not, that's okay. You just don't understand. You not that you don't understand. Sorry, it shouldn't be that. It's that I just can't work with you because you're not looking for the longevity of your building. And
Yeah,
so, and that's okay. Like, I want to make sure that this house is going to last a long time. And just because we saved a couple $1,000, it's a lot easier to replace an old countertop than it is to start doing your building envelope again.
absolutely, absolutely. That's a really great point. And I think that the other good way of thinking about that and how it leads into what people want to accomplish with their property is the fact that a lot of people are considering the house that they're building as their primary inheritance for their children, whether they sell it or not, right? So if somebody is, say it's somebody in their 50s or even in their 60s who's having you build a custom home, well, the longevity aspect of it for your warranty, absolutely as a builder, but just for the investment purposes is really important because I see places all the time. You know, if you're say you're 55 and you're building your retirement home, you're hoping to go to 85, 90, right? Like most people are going to be hoping for that type of lifespan and planning for age in place. A lot of places are being more designed for age in place here. Well, if you've neglected the building envelope, if you've neglected the design side and the construction quality of that building envelope, there are so many houses around here that get torn down because they're 45, 50 years old and they are considered at the end of their lifespan.
Yeah.
Well, if you're spending all this money and considering it a primary inheritance for your children, and then you're going to be in it for 30, 40 years, and it's looking like something that's going to have to be torn down in 10 years, well, then you've wasted all that money.
Yeah, I agree. So we were talking a little bit earlier about the Build Up Canada and thinking about you had shared maybe in a month that might be getting going and uh, regarding like suppliers, how many suppliers do you think you'll end up having on that list and how many like categories do you think will end up being as far as like breaking it down by like I guess job section or
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know how many suppliers we're going to end up with on there. My hope is that it's several hundred. I'd love to see it get over 1,000 or into the thousands
right on?
because it could be anything from hardware stores. Home Hardware should sign up every single one of their locations, right? But
Yeah,
um, any any of those things that are involved in the building industry can be in there, right? So that means that there's dozens, if not hundreds, in every major city. I would say hundreds in every major city.
yeah,
Um, and like at this point right now, I've seen the signups rolling in. I'm on AM 1150 on the Real Build uh, once in a while anyway, and they had me on to spout off on tariffs for about an hour this week
nice,
and talk
nice.
about Build Up Canada. So,
Oh,
you
good.
know,
That's exciting, dude.
you
So
start
people
to
are
see
noticing it,
stuff. What's that?
people are noticing the efforts.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. But in terms of categories, like we have, it's the basic things you would think of. It's site prep and foundation, framing and structural, roofing, exterior finishes, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, insulation, drywall, interior finishes, flooring, cabinetry, landscape, miscellaneous tools, and then right into furnishings as well, because I think about it as everything that goes into starting from a piece of raw land into a livable house, right?
right
So
on.
that's kind of where we're thinking about it. And then each of those have subcategories because some of these suppliers just make one very specific thing in one of those categories, right?
Right.
There's a tile manufacturer. They make handmade tile in Edmonton there. I think they're called Panache. I can't really
Okay.
remember, but we had a few clients who would get them to do their backsplash tile. They would make this really beautiful, like highly textured, hand hewn backsplash tile, right? And
Very
that's what
nice.
that company does. As far as I know, maybe they do more, but um, yeah. So we want it to be able to, if somebody's looking for something for their house, say they're already halfway through their build, and they go, "Oh yeah, I do actually want to explore electrical fixtures. Are there Canadian electrical fixture manufacturers? There are actually. One of them reached out and sent me a message, and I was very surprised about that because we think of it all as the 10,000 chunk of tubes from China with black spray paint on it, right? Like that's
Yeah.
what an electrical fixture is to me.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, there's lots of categories, lots of things where people can go and find exactly what they're looking for. Um, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to have lots of buy-in from these Canadian companies. You know, even at like 15, say it's $15 when we launch to actually be on the registry for a company. You need one person to click on and get exposure to one person to pay that off, right? I want it to be very accessible. But if we end up with 1,000 companies subscribed, well, all of a sudden that's $15,000. That means that I can go and do days on the ground in Winnipeg and in Toronto and in New Brunswick, out in the Maritimes, and I can go and I can pay for the flights, a hotel and a vehicle rental, so that and like not for my time or anything, but that I can go and do these videos with these suppliers and really show off what these companies are doing because ultimately that's the best way to get your product in front of somebody. If a client can come to the Build Up Canada map, which is going to be hosted at buildingcollective.ca, if they can come there and search for the category they're looking for and then hover over and there's a hot link of a YouTube video that comes up and it's me standing there in the factory with the people who make the stuff explaining exactly what they do, that's a really really powerful connection to make, right? Rather than just like go typing into the Google machine that I want this thing and then whatever the Amazon links that pop up are, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's awesome, Ben. You should be really proud of making this effort towards doing this, and I'm glad that that you got fired up enough to be wanting to put this energy into that because the belly of the beast had to get really revved up for you to want to put that effort in and because especially at this point, right? And maybe at some point it will feel less daunting when this list starts to get built out and the program's built out. But right now there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that you're putting into this. So you should be proud of that.
It is. And luckily, I had the wherewithal to hire a web development company to take this over now. Like the buildingcollective.ca, that's sitting there. That's just something I built in a couple of evenings with a couple of beers, right? So it's not advanced, but it's doing the job of collecting resources at this point. Going forward, I've had many people reach out to offer their help in volunteering and sorting through these listings because we're going to have to do some checking on each listing to ensure that it is actually a Canadian business, right? So there's a lot of resources that are going to be required of it, but I am really excited to be doing it, and if I can just do a little bit to help out keeping these dollars within Canada, it benefits all of us, right? Our economy being stronger is massively beneficial to our entire country, right? The threats of these tariffs and the on again, off again craziness of it all, like we're talking on March 10th here right now. I don't even know what the status of most of the tariffs are because it changes day by day based on the whims of a absolute, in my opinion, idiot. So that's where I'm that's where I'm at with it. Like I just
Yeah,
want some certainty and I want to do something that's good for the country. So
that's beautiful, Ben. Well, thank you very much for coming on Better with Building with Buck, and I really appreciate the effort and the belly of the beast that got fired up on this one. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. And can I just say that if anybody wants to know when the registry is actually launched, or even just be supportive of the project, please just go to buildingcollective.ca. You can sign up for the mailing list. If you know people who own these types of businesses, suppliers, manufacturers, anything like that, who are Canadian owned, or at least majority Canadian owned, then get them to go there and just register. It's going to be a very small fee, and I really, really think it's going to be beneficial for everybody on the list.
right on. Thanks, Ben, and thank you very much for taking time out of your day to be part of this. And I hope you have a good one.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.